We have three refereeing decisions that I would like to discuss. First of all, the incident at Nottingham Forest against Manchester United with the Manchester United's opening goal. I know that the Nottingham Forest coach, Sean Dyche, was very critical of the decision at the end of the match. Of course, everybody will say that it was a corner kick and it still needs to be defended. However, Sean Dyche makes a valid point about this should be where VAR should be allowed, even though it's not allowed at the moment under the protocol. I believe that VAR should be allowed to interfere in these type of situations. What's probably compounded the decision and the error is that the assistant referee has made this judgment from 70 yards away. Therefore, he clearly certainly didn't have the best view. He's made a judgment call. He's guessed, which is not what referees and assistant referees should be doing. If there's a doubt, he should have played on. Missed corner certainly is better than a corner given and a goal scored, because if you even allowed the play to continue, then there could be the debate if it's in or out. But because he's given it and it's clearly in and it's led to the corner, that's led to the goal, it's a big talking point. So assistant referee shouldn't have made that judgment call from such distance, with a lot of things in between the goalpost, players, the speed. The referee was better positioned but didn't have the right angle, so I can understand why the referee hasn't overruled the assistant referee's judgment. But certainly a very poor call from the assistant referee, which has cost Nottingham Forest and certainly the opening goal. Yes, they should be able to defend the corner kick, of course. However, it shouldn't have been given in the first place. The second incident I want to talk about is Tottenham Chelsea with a challenge from Bentancur on Reece James. I've heard many comments over the weekend where this is an orange challenge. I'm not sure what an orange challenge is. It's either yellow or a red card. And when you analyse the differences between the yellow card and the red card, for sure that there needs to be some speed, there needs to be some malice, there needs to be some force, which certainly can endanger the safety of his opponent, in this case Reece James. I believe that this is not a foot-on-foot challenge. This is a more on the angle, and you can clearly see Reece James's leg certainly bending because of the challenge, which means there's a bit of force being used. And I wouldn't have been very surprised that the referee give this type of challenge, certainly now within the Premier League, the way now that they protect football players. This has been, the criteria of referees being strong on these type of challenges for the last few years. So I wouldn't have been surprised that the referee had give this type of challenge. And I just wish, this is the type of situation where I can understand why the VAR hasn't interfered, because he believes that, there's some element of doubt, and therefore he doesn't want to re-referee the game. And I can understand that. I don't want VARs to referee the game. So I can understand why the VAR hasn't interfered. But I think I would prefer that the VAR, allowed the referee to re-see that incident again, because only the referee can see the ferocious side of the challenge, the force of the challenge. Only he can see that on the field of play, not the VAR who's in an office in Stockley Park. And I believe that with that information, I think the referee could look at the screen and see the point of contact and then make that judgment call. Even if he went, I'm still sticking with my yellow card, I can understand that. But when I look at that challenge, I think this is a type of challenge I wouldn't have been surprised it would have been a red card, and certainly the VAR wouldn't have interfered anyways, because there's a lot of elements to leaning towards me saying that that's a red card. And then the third incident is the grappling inside, which we've saw many, many times in Premier League matches, in the Liverpool-Aston Villa game with McAllister and Onana. I thought it had stopped a little bit, especially with the VAR threat that players can be punished. And, referees can go in and warn players, which we've seen. People get upset about that, saying it's delaying the game. However, prevention's better than the cure by awarding a penalty kick or a red card. So sometimes referees like to prevent the situation and try and manage them situations. This one, is a strange one because it starts off a bit of pushing, and I can deal with that as a referee. I can, if two players are pushing each other, you certainly can issue a yellow card, of course. But I think most referees in the Premier League would manage them situations. But what I think Onana does is he goes one step further, and I think he hugely ran the risk, and I wouldn't have been surprised because he put a hand on the throat. If he's pushing in the chest, then we can manage them situation. But when a player puts his hands around another player's throat, and towards the neck area or the head area, then he's massively running the risk of turning that situation into something more. And I think Onana is very, very fortunate that this action wasn't dealt with severely by the referee, because I think this type of challenge should have been a red card, because this sets an example across all levels of football that players can put hands around people's throats, and then what could happen is that action can lead to other things, and then other players are sent off or other players are given yellow cards because of that action, because there's a retaliation, because putting your hands around somebody's throat is not acceptable. So and I think the VAR should have recommended a review, because this for me is an act of violent conduct, and this is a one that frustrates a lot of people, because you can defend certainly pushing in the penalty area, but you can't defend putting your hands around somebody's throat, because that's an act of violence. So for me, this should have been certainly a red card, and I would have preferred that the VAR interfered.